So you can definitely figure it out. Second, you acquire customers. Like if someone goes to your information product as an, again, that's the same like as with content marketing, just with courses, with information products, like you can directly see, okay, so you're spending, let's say, like $1,000 on advertising, and someone buys your product for $1,500, like information product. First, you make a profit of $500, 50%, which is awesome, right? Then you acquire a person who can potentially become a client for you, right? Maybe they apply your course, they get their business like to 7 figures, mid 7 figures, and they become your client and they pay you for your services. And you don't need to sell to them. These are the best clients that you can how much it costs to work with you? Here's the money.
Yep.
Welcome to Show Me the Nuggets, where each week Joe chats with world-class entrepreneurs to find out the key principles, strategies, and processes that lie behind their outstanding achievements. Now, your host, the no-bullshit serial entrepreneur, Joe Troyer.
Hey guys, it's Joe Troyer here from Digital Triggers and Show Me the Nuggets. And I'm super excited today to be joined by Alex Fedotoff. And Alex, man, without further ado, I just want to have you come on and say thanks for joining us on today's podcast.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
So, Alex, you and I met at Funnel Hacking Live in Nashville this past year, and we hit it off. Nice steak dinner. I still remember that steak, man. That was damn good. And Alex, your claim to Facebook or your claim to fame is Facebook ads. I would say is that your secret weapon?
Yeah, we specialize in Facebook, work mostly with e-commerce businesses, some information businesses, and yeah, we're currently running also some of our own projects for e-commerce and information products.
Okay, cool. So my team did some research. They said that you've generated over $100 million in sales. You're obviously a 2 award winner as well. And they said that according to what they found, you could be the fastest e-com funnel in history to scale to 7 figures or that 2 club award.
Yeah, I mean, it's for me, it's just, it's good. Like these are numbers. It just, you do something you do for a long time, and then it's like just some of the things work out, some of the things like don't work out. And we've scaled up, like last Q4, actually, we've scaled up one funnel to like $1.7 million in sales in 3 months. And I mean, since then we've replicated it, but that kind of like was the first like time that we've done it like in such short like time frame. But before that, there have been like hundreds of funnels that didn't work out, and a lot of like wasted money,
Yeah. It's like, overnight success story, right?
That's what they say, yeah. Right.
So you guys are managing, we found about 40 million a year on Facebook ads. That's crazy. About the same as us with Google ads. Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah. Awesome.
Fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, Facebook for us like is the main platform. It's not perfect platform. It's like getting strict on advertisers, like accounts like get shut down. But yeah, it's still good place to get traffic. We are looking into Google as well, but I just realized that like to figure it out, like you guys have had, like it's probably like will take another 5 years. So we don't touch it a lot, like.
Yeah, it's a whole nother beast, and that's why we don't touch Facebook a lot, and that's why I'm excited to have you on to pick your brain a little bit. So before we dive deep, Alex, if you could give us a little bit of background, right? Before you stumbled into your agency, where do you come from? Tell us a little bit about your story and kind of set the stage for today's interview.
So I'm from Ukraine originally. I've been through like typical past. Like my country is poor country. It's like you don't get a lot of like prospects there. So I graduated. I changed like dozens of jobs. Couldn't find like anything that's like reasonable because like for example, one of my jobs was like selling cookies for a company, and I was getting paid like $100 a month. And you don't get to enjoy life like for $100 a month. And so and I decided to figure out like some of the guys, like I knew that they've been like freelancing, they've been doing like services for other companies. And I thought, okay, so I need to figure that out. But I didn't want to do it like, services for companies in my country, or, I just want to go like, okay, so I go to, US market where people have, more resources. But, I didn't speak English at that time, so that was a little problem. I had to learn it, and also I didn't have any skills, so I had to learn it as well. And I started as a freelancer like on Elance, which was Upwork previously. And I started to basically see like what kind of like projects people hire for, see what's in demand basically.
Yep.
And and then I started to applying for these projects. Barely spoke English, so I would learn English. I would learn some like new skills at night. Then during the day I would apply for jobs and fulfill what on the projects that I was applying for. And it took some time to get traction, but it's then more and more like I started working with e-commerce businesses like naturally. They've been like hiring more on Upwork, and they've been asking about Facebook. And so I started to do that service for them. I didn't know it at first, like had to figure it out as well, from courses, from YouTube videos, wherever I could find some information. And then I just decided, okay, I just focus on Facebook. I focus on e-commerce as kind of, what I will do. And that's where it started to get traction. Saying like after we started to focus, it started to get traction. We started to get better clients. And since then it started to get better. And, if we figure out e-commerce, like dropshipping in particular for clients, we've seen like how everything works, and we started to do it for ourselves with our own products. And here we are.
So that's really interesting. I think we got 3 big topics that we can hit from what you just said, Alex. We talked about basically you got a freelance biz or an agency business, right? You also do e-com for yourself, and then you're running Facebook ads for other people. So really, there's 3 big topics that I would love to chat with you about. When you first started building out your freelancing business, so to speak, how many times or how many different things do you think you tried before you found Facebook and decided to stick with it?
I wasn't searching for it particularly. Like I was just, I was like, for example, someone would search like for AdWords expert. I would. I learned AdWords like to some extent. I was getting like okay results, not like, very good results, but I was delivering like on what I promised clients. And then they say, oh, like we also advertise on Facebook. Can you do Facebook? And I said, yeah, sure. And then I would like Google what is Facebook advertising, and then I would just learn, like I would just learn as much as possible, go and search for like courses, buy courses, buy, whatever information I could find on that topic. And I wasn't specifically, looking for this. It's just naturally, I guess.
Yep.
And then, I just decided, okay, so I'm trying to do like Google, like some content marketing, some, this, and okay, I'll just focus on Facebook, on one platform, and we'll do it for e-commerce because that's what we're getting the best results for. And that's, I think that's where it's kind of like started to finally get some traction.
So your agency now, what type of businesses do you focus on? If we could zoom in on that a little bit. You said e-com, a little bit of info. Like what if a client comes to you today, like what do they need to fit in terms of size, growth, budget? Like what's the perfect client for you, Alex, and why?
They would need to be like at least 7 to 9 figures. I've consulted for some of the like even bigger like Fortune 500 companies. I mean, those are the best to work with. Like the bigger the company, the easier it is to work with them. Like with smaller companies, like 7 figures. I mean, in like mid 7 figures, like just 7 figures is maybe not like, I think that's what kind of, that's the biggest, change. Like who you work with as an agency, right? Because that will either like ruin your life or it will make your like, right? Like
I know.
And then like, because if you work with like some small business, I mean, it seems to you that it's easier to get started with, but at the same time, they make money, and for them it's like hard-earned money, and they're attached to it, right? So when it comes time to like to pay or like they're monitoring your work, it's more stressful, I guess. Whereas with bigger companies, they have like CMO, right? They have someone like senior, like digital manager, or who's responsible for like social advertising. And that person it's not their money, right? They have budgets. They obviously have to, spend it properly, work with right people, but they don't have this like personal attachment, right? To that. And also the KPIs for those businesses, they might be like, like more vague than, for example, we need to get like, 10 million views, or we need to get like 100 million views on this video. Obviously that's easier than to get like, okay, let's get like, let's spend $500,000 or like $1 million in 2 months with, return on ad spend with no less than like 2.5, in these countries, right? That's, these are different KPIs. And so I think that's, everyone like should, people who like, if you want to basically have less stress, you have to evolve like and work with clients that generate bigger revenues. And also for them, it's easier to pay you like, so if like for me, like, the agency must generate like from each client, at least, like $15,000-$20,000 per month, like, from the service that we provide. That's not just like, so there is a retainer, there's like performance and stuff but it has to be within that range, because otherwise it just doesn't make sense, because we have like account managers, we have copywriters, we have designers. So I think basically evolving is to bigger and bigger clients is the biggest leverage and the biggest like leverage point that you can have.
Yeah. So when it comes to prospecting then, Alex, how are you finding these agencies? How are you pulling on, or how are you finding these businesses? How are you pulling on clients? What's working for you in your agency?
So I have a group on Facebook dedicated to Facebook advertising, which is called Facebook Ads Rockstars. We have over 30,000 people there. I think that helps. We like for sure we've got like many clients from the group for sure. Like I know that that kind of like having a group and basically providing information, providing value, definitely had a great impact on the business. And then I have a YouTube channel as well, with some like information on Facebook, some information on like eCommerce. I think that's helpful as well. So yeah, I think those are two main channels, and obviously like personal networking, like some businesses refer other businesses. So this is on that front, and there's also the paid advertising, right? We have some paid advertising we're driving. We're spending money on ads to get people to have like a consultation with them first.
Yep.
And then if it's like a good fit, then we find some arrangement to work together.
Yeah, that's super interesting. I feel like so many marketers I speak to that are on the verge of really taking off, they haven't gotten it through their head yet that like all their IP is really not IP. Like it's available everywhere else, and like giving content away and adding value to them is still like a very foreign concept, right? It's like, but this is my asset and I can't give this away. And I find like if you can just start showing that and sharing that, like you're just gonna quite literally blow up.
Yeah, I think it's like if you, for example, if you can share something and people can apply it without you even like knowing, and they will get results, then selling them, like for example, I have like one of the new clients we have just started like working with, like he read some of like my articles or something and he applied it, and he increased his sales from like 200,000 per month to like $500,000 per month in like few months. And now like he doesn't ask like do you have any like case studies, like he just says, okay, how to make it work, how much is it, like that's it, like short conversation, there's no sales call, it just and I think that's a key, like helping people up front, like first identifying like who you're going after and what kind of like information will help those people. Yep. Like so we have, for example, guides on like scaling ads or like CBOs, like those things that are relevant right now for Facebook advertisers, and those that's basically what gets like initial awareness, people know about you, and then when they have this kind of like need, like they'll come to you. And now like Q4, so a lot of the like, so if I think about like a lot of the efforts like we've put into kind of like this, creating content and stuff. At the beginning, it might not have like direct ROI, but then like throughout, like, so for now it's end of the year, right? And companies have budgets to spend, and they obviously want to make like this like November, like Black Friday, like huge months for them. So who does it come from? Who does it come to? Like, and so yeah, I think it just has to be like a priority, like to kind of like constantly. I would say like invisible prospecting, probably.
So yeah, I love that you've picked a niche. Obviously, you stuck with ecom. You built the Facebook group, so like you're going to be on the bleeding edge all the time, right? You're going to know exactly what's happening because you have so many people in the group. You're going to know what their deepest desires are, what their frustrations are, and then you're going to be able to build content to help them solve that. And that should bring you guys pre-sold customers, like you said, all the time that have already gotten results with your training.
Yeah, I think it's just like initially just trusting the process, like trusting that this is the key that makes, because, typically, like, how do you, like, humans, like, they want like instant gratification, right? Like, I send an email, I get a client, or, whatever. But I mean, you sending emails and like hundreds of other people sending emails, right? And you asking for something, like with emails, let's say. Not to say that emails don't work. It just, like, for example, if you create a piece of content, like, obviously you have to make it for the right market. It has to be well done. It has to be actionable. You distribute it in the right places. Even put like some ad budget behind it, like to distribute it properly. Then, like, the result like might not come like instantly, but if it will, like, after like some time, it will come, like, it will pay for itself like many times over. Like, for example, we had a guide like how to scale like Facebook ads, right? And that guide was downloaded like maybe like 5,000 times, and maybe, I don't remember the exact number, but it was downloaded, and I know for sure like it has delivered like 10 clients easily, like, that's what from my knowledge. Like, maybe there have been some people, and it's even like ranking, like, if you Google like scaling Facebook ads, it's ranking like one of the first ones. And yeah, I think that makes a big difference.
You don't need to do a ton of content marketing, obviously, to get great results either, right? If it really solves a problem and a great need, right? Like, that's one or two pieces or a handful of pieces can be what gets you all the results. I used to do daily videos for the last year. I did daily content, and I stopped like a month ago because I realized that about 90% of my results came from like 5 pieces of content. And I was just like, why am I spending hours like a week working on new content when I could just like create some better pieces or improve those and keep marketing those? So definitely, I think that quality is better than quantity.
Yeah, and then maybe like putting some budget behind those. Like, if okay, so this is a good piece of content, it's validated itself like organically. So now you can put a budget behind that. Just target people like either on Facebook or distribute it in some Facebook groups. So you basically then you need like more traffic, obviously, to that piece of content if that's really good.
So with your ClickFunnels case study, right, and you become a 2 Comma Club member, you talked a lot about funnel scaling, and obviously you guys were able to scale very quickly on that campaign. What do you think is the 80-20 of scaling on Facebook? What do you think is like the thing that most people take for granted that haven't been able to scale, or what aren't they thinking about?
I think having like the right product is like major part of it. Like, if your product is not good, then like, and it's kind of like, so for example, the product that we've sold, right, that got into that 2 Comma Club, that was a product that was selling like previously like for 6 months before that. So other people have been selling it successfully, and so it was like a proven, right? Like, it wasn't like something that, okay, so let's see if that would work, right? Obviously, that sometimes also, like you can hit something that works and you can scale it up. But for me, it's always like searching for a proven concept. And for example, if people are naturally spending money on something, you might hit something like that is working out very well. So I think, but in the first place, it's a product. Then it's finding a good angle for the product, right? Because if your ads are just like maybe like feature oriented, like that is not as effective, right? You maybe like you need to put a story behind the product, right? You need to sell the story, how your product is different. Maybe some of your customer stories, like for example, we sell a lot of products now with like customer testimonial sets where people specifically in customers' words basically explaining what the product did for them, right? Like basically change that they have been through because of the product. That works very well. So kind of like getting deeper into like emotional triggers that make people buy and telling stories. I think that's once you have a good product. So that's another factor. And then funnel, right? So funnel itself. So the products that we get the most success with, they have good margins and they have typically higher average order value. So, some of the best, funnels that we have and we've been running for clients, they typically have the products that cost like $100 or more. So this way we can spend more on customer acquisition. We can spend like $100 CPA, and we can break even, or we can sometimes be even profitable, right? And, if someone is competing with us and they can spend like $30, on acquiring the same customer, we have a huge advantage in that front.
So with working with so many e-com companies, Alex, what do you think is working right now when it comes to back ends and average order value? Like what's the thing that people can do now? Let's say that they have a 7-figure store, they just got over $1 million in revenue, right? And they're starting to scale up. Obviously, you just said how important it is to have a good average order value and get, the repeat customer value up. If they already have a high margin product, they can spend $100 plus on a CPA, then obviously the back end is the next thing I think that they should be really thinking of. What's on your mind in terms of back ends? What do you see working, not working? What could people do immediately on the back end?
So upsells like is a must, right? Like every product that you sell must have like several upsells. So if you sell, even like whether you do it with ClickFunnels, whether you do it with like Shopify, so Shopify has like one-click upsell. There is also the plugin called Intercart for Shopify by 10 browsers. So it allows you to create like customized checkouts and different flows and funnels with different like upsells. So that's like typically 20% of the revenue if that's like well done. So imagine the difference like of 20% extra in sales, without spending extra on advertising. This is like huge. Now you can, so now just to get to the break-even point, you can spend like, 20% more, right? And so that's the key to scale. Like how much can you spend on advertising, right? Like basically how much, so Facebook has, so there's your company, 7-figure company, right? And there is like the platform that can get you to like eight figures, whether it's Google, whether it's Facebook, right? And you have all of these other people competing for the same, spots, right? Basically, if you can spend more, right, on acquiring that customer, and you can do like, if you have multiple upsells, right, that's kind of like just the first like basic step. I think like that should be must. And a lot of companies don't have it. They just like, they have like one order and then like, and that's it. Like that's kind of like how their relationship ends with the customer. And then once you acquire customers, there's like email, so for example, for e-commerce, there are different like flows, like how you can basically either if people opt in but don't buy, there's like one sequence. If people buy like under, after like 30 days, there's another sequence. Okay, like buy another item at discounted price because you're our customer. There's like, sequences for like VIP customers. So different sequences that basically allow you to extract more from each client that you get. And, that typically, email marketing gets, from 10% to 30% extra in sales for e-commerce businesses in particular. So that's another, leverage point. So you have your upsells, which could be like 20%, and then you have email marketing. So it's like 10 to 30%, right? So now you have like, from 20 to 50% more revenue from the same customers. And then I think every business must have like some, by high margin products, I mean, so for example, you buy something for $1 and you sell it for 10, right? So, I mean, your margin is high, it's like 90%, right? But it's not necessarily, high in terms of like dollars that you can spend to acquire a customer, right? So for example, if I can get a product for like 25, so for example, give you a specific example, that product that got to like Tukama Club, So we bought it for $30 and we sold it for $120. $90 margin, right? And typical CPA was like from $30 to $50. That's like on if people buy one, and we have multiple upsells, right? So that's where these things come from. So that's one thing, right? Like let's say you figured out this physical product stuff, then having info product, I think, is a must. This whole like Russell Brunson, like I think it's must have. Like today, I have seen the ad from. Let me see if I still see it on my newsfeed. The agency Mute 6.
Yeah.
They're like a huge agency. I mean, I don't know how big they were. They grown to like 130 or 150 people in California. And the company was sold just recently, few weeks back, to some like a big like corporation like that buys agencies, right? So they scaled it up. Now, like I have seen their ad today. They're running some ad for their course where so we'll just share like everything that we do in our agency, right? And like our processes, how we optimize ads, how we structure, how we do creative, like everything, right? You can just get it, and I mean the price is like $1,000 or $1,200, and I think that's an amazing way to acquire customers because first you can be profitable on the front end with information products, margins like 90%, 95%, right? So you can definitely figure it out. Second, you acquire customers. Like if someone goes through your information product as an like. Again, that's the same like as with content marketing, just with courses, with information products. Like you can directly see, okay, so you're spending, let's say, like $1,000 on advertising, and someone buys your product for $1,500, like information product. First, you make a profit of $500, 50%, which is awesome, right? Then you acquire a person who can potentially become a client for you, right? Maybe they apply your course, they get their business like to 7 figures, mid 7 figures, and they become your client and they pay you for your services. And you don't need to sell to them. These are the best clients that you can like just, okay, how much it costs to work with you? Here's the money.
Yep. Yeah, that's beautiful. Earlier this year, I became a partner in Invisible PPC, and we did the same thing. So I bought into the company, became an owner, and then we bolted on an info and training side of the company, traditionally of a service business. And I mean, it's just crazy catapult because of that. We added one new product, we added a training division, and the company's like just, freaking blowing up. It's like almost a straight line increase. Like, so yeah, I definitely think that bolting on different types of businesses, a high ticket or higher priced or higher margin product is great. What do you see working in e-com specifically? Like if you're selling a home decor item, like how can you sell an info product? Like what do you see working in some non-obvious type of scenarios, right?
With home decor, like you would have to be like more creative, right? Like, so there are types of ads, like you might have seen, like there was a presentation. These guys have even presented in the conference we've been to, like the Funnel Hacking Live.
Yep.
Harmon Brothers or something, right? Harmon Brothers. These guys, okay. Like they create like viral ads and stuff.
Okay. Yeah.
And so, yeah, I think like you would need to create something like this, maybe not on a such high budget, because I mean these guys, like they charge, I don't know, like multiple 6 figures for the project. But basically being creative, right, with your products. They created the campaign for Purple, this like mattress company, I guess. So it's done like very well. I guess it helped them to like grow very fast. So yeah, I think with those kind of like products, you cannot go and say like, buy now, get now. You would have to be like more creative. Maybe like with like customer stories, like customer selling, like for example, customer testimonial, was looking like horrible, and then I arrived and I bought like multiple stuff and I saved like so much. So
yep.
Maybe this kind of like advertising to drive like initial awareness. And I mean, if you're home decor, I mean, if you're a local like home decor store, like you don't need like a lot of advertising, because there's like so much, like there's only like limited area like where you can advertise. If you're selling on the internet, I mean, Facebook, like, so we specialize in Facebook, and can I say, like, for other, platforms, I mean, you would have to see if Facebook is the best platform for you. Maybe Google is a better platform for you.
So what I was saying is like the bolt-on model, right? Where you're bolting on like a high revenue product or a digital product, right?
Okay, got it.
So like, how do you take something that doesn't have like like photographer, sell them how to become a photographer course or how to build a photography business when you're selling some type of digital product or even e-com type of actually buying cameras, like that becomes easy to stack on something like that as an upsell or cross-sell. But how do you take something like home decor, anything in home decor, and add an info product or something really high margin? Like, what else is working in the space?
Easily. So what I would do is I would identify some kind of like, for example, every home decor business should probably has like some core customers, right? I don't know, maybe like ladies who just like stayed home, right? Or I don't know, or busy moms, who want to like have like a, I don't know, beautiful interior stuff, right? Or like home designer, I don't know, like whoever their like core customer is, right? Then the information product could be, for example, how to decorate your home, and depending obviously on kind of like what these people want, right? So that would have to come from the customer side. And if that's kind of like established business, that would have, okay, so we have, let's say, 10,000 customers, and 5,000 customers of these, let's say, people in this category. Okay, so here are like their demographics and psychographics. Like here, like, let's say they make so much money. They live in, for example, in these areas, in like suburban areas. And for example, they're interested in, I don't know, newest trends for design, right? Then that could be like, okay, so, how to furnish your home according to the last like designs, right? And then like there would be like a presentation with, I don't know, like even like ebook, with multiple like ideas on how to do it, right? That that people in that particular audience would be interested in, right? In every audience, I think it would have to come from the customer. Like it's not about like what you want to sell. It's about like who is the customer and what would be interesting for them. I think that if people think from that perspective, then there's so many ideas on what you can sell.
100%. Yeah, that's a great takeaway. It's simply finding out from your customer base. Ask them, figure out. You could probably go out to some of the data append search sources where you could figure out, take your customer list, and then what magazines do they like? What are their interests? What are their hobbies? Right, and go pull some data on them so you can better understand your customers, and then survey them. Like, how else can we help you?
This is the most like boring part. Like the most like boring part, and it's like in every, I know, like because when I'm creating like information product, like there's first like research part, like avatar and stuff. Like it's kind of like a lot of people like want to just skip this part, and then like, okay, so we need to like set up something and some more like sort of like tricks and tips and stuff and strategies, like that's where they want to be like. But this is the most like important part always.
100%. So I've seen people doing like buyers clubs that seem like they work pretty well, pulling some continuity in, like there's no cost of goods. So buyers clubs, what else? Like member benefits types of packages. But then I think people could also just do searches for ebooks, like you said, or training. So the niche or the vertical plus that. And if they just go up a couple levels, right? So in terms of categories, they could pretty easily, I'm sure, find some things.
Yeah. Like a friend of mine, like for example, he runs like an information business that, so he was working in a Deloitte, which is, like big consulting company. And now like he basically created like info product on how someone can get a job in big four consulting companies, which is, and he asked like, like 2 years ago, like he had his like this website, like generating traffic for it, like organic, because he was doing it like, for many years. And I told him, like, sell a training on how to do it. And his and then it like took him some time, but he started to do it. Now it's like it's a 7-figure business.
Wow, that's crazy.
And he has like almost like no competition.
Yeah, I bet.
So I mean, there are many people that would pay for what and if you have established business, then asking your customers and communicating with them, and figuring out like what their challenges are and how maybe your products can integrate into what they want to know, right? So there's what they want to know, right, and what they need to achieve, right, and what kind of like they need for that. And that could be that missing part that you can get them closer to your product and same time make it profitable information product, for example.
100%. Yeah, I love that. I love the idea of combining the info and the physical goods. Such a great idea. I met somebody about a month ago now on the West Coast. I flew out for an event, and they were doing still the free plus shipping physical and then continuity model, and they were just destroying it. They were making money on the front and then had like a 75% take rate on the continuity immediately as the upsell. And I was just floored. I'm like, that's still working for you? Like, you're still doing that? And she's like, yeah, every day. Like, she's like, I feel so bad. Like, we've been running this thing for 18 months. She's like, I set up the Facebook ads in like under an hour. I set up the whole funnel, Facebook ads, everything. She's like, and I haven't touched it since. And basically now this is a 7-figure business. And she's like, I think it's time that I get somebody in there and like start playing with it and running it and actually doing something with it. It's got some legs.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So what are your thoughts with Facebook when it comes to AI? So with Google, right, and AI, some situations, some types of AI are working really, really well. Other forms are not working well at all, and you got to really be careful. So I'm curious, like on any type of automation with Facebook when it comes to running ads, what are your thoughts? When do you use it? When don't you? What's kind of the current state?
It's getting better. Like, so overall, like, I get invited to like Facebook headquarters many times. And so like they always say that, all of this stuff, like, so on Facebook, for example, when you run, like all of these like technical details, okay, targeting, like bidding, like age, like all of these things, they just become like easier and easier over time, right? And over time there will be just like very few simple settings. You just like put, okay, so I want to target, this is my product, this who's my customer approximately, and Facebook will do all of that for you, right? It's obviously not there yet, but the system is already like very efficient. So for example, some of the best performing campaigns we have on Facebook, they have zero targeting. Like basically just gender, age, country. That's it, right? So let's say 40 plus, man in United States. This is it, right? This is the whole targeting. No kind of like interest, no lookalike audiences, just that, right? These are the most efficient and the most consistent campaigns that we have currently. And this as well, like with CBO, which is like a new kind of like a structure, which is I guess it's similar to Google, where it has like a budget on the campaign level, or Google has on the asset level.
Yeah, you can do it by ad, but you can also do it by campaign.
Okay, so on Facebook,
the budget is for the total campaign, but you can set cost per click on campaign and on the ad.
Oh, okay, got it. Okay. So with Facebook right now, it's like, so it was previously on the ad set level. You would say, okay, so $20 budget per ad set. Now they've introduced basically the campaign budget, right? So let's say campaign has a budget of $500, and then Facebook distributes it basically among these different ad sets. And so it's also one of those like quite consistent things, right? So for example, you can have like a, I don't know, like say $500, $1,000 budget per campaign, and then Facebook will just, optimize it. It's not 100% efficient. You have to keep eye on it for sure. Like, every day, like you should keep eye on it. And I mean, if you're spending a lot, let's say you have like $1,000, $2,000, $5,000 budget per campaign, then you need to have some kind of like automation in place. So if it's not profitable, then, and if it's like kind of like goes over your KPIs, then it would have to be killed, right? So, so that's very like, I mean, I wouldn't trust it like 100%, but it's definitely getting better and getting like more straightforward, but I wouldn't trust it 100%.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's how I feel about Google. Sometimes it works really, really well. Sometimes it works really, really bad. I think any type of like branded campaign, I think any type of things like that, like they'll put your max bid way up here and you could be paying a third of the price, right? And then they'll just like murder you on the cost per click and then put the budget at the top. So like it's a little crazy. You got to watch out for it. I think overall it works pretty well. But like to think that you can just set it up and forget it and walk away, you're definitely like, you're losing your ass for sure.
Yeah. Same with Facebook.
So Alex, can you talk about your use of micro funnels and profit funnels and how they fit into your personal strategy?
So for me, like, I want to, like, with everything that, we sell, I want to make sure that we, maximize like each, opportunity, right? So for example, if we sell a product, for example, when you buy a product through your, let's say, you go to the website to buy something, right? Only some percentage, like maybe like 2-3% of people will buy like right away, right? So, for example, we are collecting emails, from people, right? So, for example, if you don't want to like buy right away, right, there might be like some direct response offer, like 20% off, or there might be something like, okay, so once a week we'll have like a giveaway of like, I don't know, a car, or, like $10,000, whatever the offer is, and just put your email to be part of it, right? And so that puts, those people who are not like directly interested in buying, right, into this like micro funnel where, okay, they're already like in your ecosystem, they provided you some information, and basically they have provided you this, first like step. They made like this small commitment, so they provided this like email, and then what I mentioned previously, you can set up like welcome email series, right? So for everyone who gives their email, let's say there's a series of like 3-5 automated emails that goes to that person, and basically they might educate them about your product, they might give some some information, and they also ask you for a sale and might give you some discount as well, right? So, and that's like, that applies. So typically, like, let's say you have 3% conversion rate on the website, like e-commerce website, then you have like you're losing like 97% of the traffic, right? So if you put typical like opt-in rate on these kind of like email, collection like pop-ups would be like, I don't know, like 10%, like 5 to 10%, sometimes 15. So let's say 10%, right? So you just got like 10% more of, potential customers, like you put them into this sequence, right? And these like welcome series, I mean, typically they have like good, EPC, they have good, they're basically making money, and it's done once, right? So yeah, this is just like one example of, of this funnel.
So really, when you talk about these two different things, they're really just things to maximize, right, the earnings for every single click that you're getting from your traffic.
You must maximize like every click that you get. Like it's because if you want to be competitive, and especially like on higher budgets, you have to maximize everything. When you have like a very strong funnel, like you can just go and buy traffic like whenever you want. Like, okay, I want to buy like traffic on Google. I know my numbers, I know my conversion rates, I know my like EPC, I know my, conversion rate, the average order value, I know the upsell take. As you mentioned with your friend where, they know the uptake rate on the subscription, it just like, they just need to buy the traffic. That's, that becomes, easier part.
I want to be respectful of your time, and I really appreciate you spending almost the last hour with me here. So I want to start wrapping things up. When you see new marketers coming into your Facebook group, right? When you see new people with e-com stores coming into the group, what's the one or two things that you try to really put in their hand that you think is going to do the best job enabling the next few steps of their journey?
Like one thing is I would just tell them to approach it as scientific process. So a lot of people they think because how some people position like Facebook advertising or Google, it's kind of like you do something like and then like it's suddenly you make a lot of money. I think a lot of people have this like mindset, or like let's say they put like some one ad and it has like 100x return on ad spend, but it only spent like $2. So kind of like show them that it's all like scientific process, right? And so if you have like, let's say you have at the beginning, you have like unknown parts, right? You have unknown, like whether my product will sell, whether like my website will convert, right? Whether my ads will convert, right? Whether Facebook will not shut down my account. And basically breaking down those parts into like smaller elements. Let's say, okay, so the product, we'll do the research for the product, right? And there is no magic, right? Some products sell, some products don't sell, right? You do competitive research, you see what's selling, right? Then you have higher chances of figuring it out. Then with your ads, right? So let's say if you test one creative, you have like either it works or it doesn't, right? But if you have 3-5 different creatives, right, then your chances just increased, like 5 times, right? So then let's say you test like one audience, right? Okay, so you have like one chance of figuring it out. Like if you have like 10 audiences, okay, like 9 of them might not work, but then you have one that might be promising that if you start like digging deeper, okay, so that's the audience I can start with. I can find some similar audiences to this, and I can start my process from there. So that's one thing. And another is, like Google, like Facebook, every platform, it's learning. Like it needs to accumulate some data, And if someone comes into like advertising, they only have like $200 or $500 to spend on advertising. Probably they shouldn't do like advertising at all, because it requires like bigger budgets to figure out like any offer, right? And if they don't even like have a product, then it becomes another unknown part, right? They don't know the product, they don't know the offer, they don't have the budget. I mean, it's difficult, right? So yeah, like understanding that it takes budget to figure it out, whatever platform that is. Yeah, I think it's very important, because okay, so I need to have this budget dedicated to it. It's like my learning budget that I'll spend, figuring this stuff out. But once I figure it out, it might, build, 7-8 figure business in the process. I think this would be like the major two things.
So you're going to hate the next question, man. You're going to hate it, but I have to ask because I get this question all the time too. And to be honest, I'm never sure how to answer people. So when somebody says, Alex, what's that learning budget need to look like? Right? What's that testing budget need to look like? How do you help people come up with that number?
So for me, like for example, I can say for dropshipping. So dropshipping is the business model that we use to sell products. We don't own products, we just sell them. Once we get traction, we basically put some branding on them. We put some more, we work on getting the faster shipping times. At the beginning, it's all like from China. It's it's quite like different business model. It's not even like shipping the product from US, it's shipping from China, but it can be profitable if it's done right. And for dropshipping, I know that people would need to spend like $2,000 to $5,000 on advertising as this kind of like learning budget, right? Before they start to get traction, before they start to get profitable. That's what I'm seeing in my experience. Some products, like for example, I have a student, right? So the lady, like she works, she's from LA, and she basically started like e-commerce, like she started like running e-commerce, right? The e-commerce business, like dropshipping business, and she was doing it for like a year, and she has tested like 40 or 50 products. She spent like $10 or $15 on advertising, right? And it seems like, okay, it freaking doesn't make any sense, right? But then like she hit like one good product and then another good product. So basically in like a few months, she generated $1.5 million in sales, and so, but, she had that patience, It's kind of like just approaching it from that perspective. Obviously, when there is like it's kind of like a gold rush or something, right? When people, okay, there's like money and everybody runs there, like it was with like cryptocurrencies. And so there's like Google ads, everyone runs there, or like Facebook ads, everyone runs there. But it just like approaching it like, okay, so here's a budget, like I would say like $5,000 to $10,000, like you can probably figure out like 90% of offers. Some offers might cost even more to figure out, but yeah, but you have to be prepared to spend money to learn and to figure it out.
Yeah, we have the same thing with Google Ads. So we just call it minimum viable spend. And ultimately, we figure out what the average cost per click is. We come up with a good average in terms of what we think conversion rate should be. And we know that we're going to, it's going to be rougher to start. The cost per clicks at the beginning are going to be harder with Google. And so we have kind of a little formula that we use to come up with minimum viable spend. But I've never really heard anybody break it down. So thanks for that explanation for Facebook anyway. Appreciate it.
How much is that for Google typically?
So the way that we look at it is like at Invisible PPC, like we focus on more local businesses. So and service-based businesses. So we know what conversion rates look like for our customers and like hundreds of verticals as well. But we just take like our average conversion rate. We take the average cost per click data that we can pull actually from Google. We add a multiplier to it just so that we're safe, right? And then we say we need X amount of clicks in order to get there, right? Okay. And so then that formula gives us our minimum viable spend. Awesome, man. So I want to wrap it up with one last question. Instead of asking you to recommend 3 books, like most podcasts do at the end, I want to ask you, what's the book that's made the biggest impact on the way that you do business?
How to Get Rich.
Okay.
It's by Felix Dennis.
Okay.
You know who this guy is?
I don't. I've actually not heard that book.
So, the Maxim magazine, like Man magazine, like.
Yep.
So that's the guy who's created it.
Okay.
Felix. Yeah, I'll type it. Yeah, my pronunciation is like.
It's all right. I'll find it. Throw it in the show notes for everybody.
Yeah, exactly. British guy, like very smart. I mean, he was. He like when he died, like he had like a net worth of like around like $1 billion.
Wow.
And so he built like basically this like publishing business from scratch. And it's very good book, and it's not like so the name like suggests it's about money, but then there are a lot of like like psychologist things in that book. Like for example, kind of like if let's say so, it's kind of like. If you want to achieve something, let's say, so in this particular case, it's about like if you want to like make money, right? If you like care, for example, what like your neighbors think of you, if you are not prepared like to be embarrassed, if you're not prepared to kind of like fail, like then you will not get there, because you'll just like consider like so many like different opinions. And so you will just like you'll be afraid of doing many things. Another thing is kind of like it's I mean some of those things like they're easy to say but fucking hard to to comprehend. Like for example, it's like he says like basically the armies and the governments, like they're most afraid of people who have nothing to lose, right? And then, a lot of the things that we do or like don't do, it's because like we are afraid of losing something. And if you just don't have that fear, right? It's like, it's like, like there is a guy like that is, the Trump president, and he has his like that Kushner, his son-in-law, and his dad basically made a fortune in like real estate. And his dad, I mean, he had absolutely like zero like he has like absolutely zero like fear or like when you have like this when you're afraid to lose something, how it's called, loss aversion or something, right? Loss aversion, like you don't want to lose something. And he has zero of it. So he would just buy like buildings that other people are, like afraid of buying, and like he would just like go like heavy, like loans and stuff. And and that's how he made his fortune. Obviously, he's provided this like good ground for his sons and stuff, who are now in a good position. But yeah, I think like most of the things, they're mental, and so this book is about that kind of like those things.
Life is all about mental challenges. Business is all about mental challenges. I was at a mastermind recently, and at the very end, everybody went around and shared their number one takeaway from the event. And this guy stands up, and he was kind of quiet the entire time. And he stands up, and they're like, "What's your takeaway?" And he's like, "My biggest takeaway is I didn't invent business, and this room didn't invent business. And basically, like, we all have challenges, but they've all been solved before, right? And all that you need is the discipline to go find who has the answer." Right. And you'll be able to conquer, and get past whatever it is that you're going through. So I love books like this that make you think differently. So I'll definitely be buying it and going taking it for a read.
And there's another one from the same author, like from the Felix. It's called Narrow Road.
Okay.
There's some like important principles on like running a business, making money. I think it's very good. It's very good. He's not like when you read like Richard Branson, like for example, it's like very like positive, and this guy is like very like blunt and like very like like his yeah.
Those are my favorite.
Yeah, and then not like Dan Pena, right?
Yeah, for sure.
He has a good book too, like it's like Your First 100 Million or something.
Okay. Yeah, I haven't read that.
Yeah,
I'll put that one in the show notes as well.
Yeah, also like these are like I think these are like, because a lot of the books are like very like soft, and like obviously they want to be attractive to this audience and to that audience and to that audience, right? And these guys are just like, fuck it, like we'll just we'll just they write what they think.
Yeah, we'll say it like it is and not sugarcoat it for anybody. I love that. Yeah, those are the books that I get through and I can't put down in like one session or two sessions. So definitely love those books. Thank you, man, Alex, for jumping on here. I really, really appreciate it. I know that my audience and my crew and my subscribers are going to get a ton of value out of this. For everybody watching, if you guys got a ton of value out of this, go follow Alex. And Alex, where's the best place for people to reach out or to follow you? Maybe that Facebook group or your consulting site. Where can they learn more and interact with you, man?
Yeah, it's my group. So it's called Facebook Ads Rockstars.
Okay.
And my email. So that's my personal email.
So cool, man. We'll link up your email in the chat that you just send over, and then also the Facebook group. I really appreciate it, man, and hopefully we can link up at another event here soon.
Yeah, sure, man, sure.
All right, boss. Take it easy, man. Have a great day.
Thank you, man.